broadband network to our 7-county area.
Dan Roger.
Recording in progress.
Hey guys, I'm Alex Beatty. From Connect. Myself, Louisa, Jen, and Mara, and we help close digital divide in rural areas and helping subsidize those networks with with that, Dimitri, digital inclusion specialist with the Office of Broadband, does a fantastic job of preparing us for the next round of funding. And with that, go ahead, JR.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dimitri Farley. I'm the digital inclusion specialist at the Office of Broadband Development. Today, I just want to talk a little bit about what our office has done, hope to do, and then hopefully we get some feedback from you all on how we can do it better. So first and foremost, the typical question. We always start these meetings off with a following question. I don't think I necessarily need to ask you this one, but let's see what's keep to ask. How many of the folks in this room are familiar with digital equity, digital inclusion? That's kind of so we'll skip the very in-depth explanation. At its root, digital equity is the state that we're all rooting for. It's a state whereby every community and every individual who desires it has access to the skills, knowledge, and resources necessary to be a full participant in the digital economy. And so from here, I want to talk a little bit about some maps that reflect the current state in this area. Right. So if you look at this map, this shows the percentage of households with broadband subscriptions. And as you can see, we have really high uptake in some areas, right? Certain areas of Platte, Clay, and Jackson County have 90, even 100% uptake rates. But if you get further out from the urban core, if you look at outer Platte, outer Ray, outer Jackson County, they really lower those percentages. We see whole areas where only 50–60% of people have access to a broadband subscription. And I think everyone in this room knows in the 21st century, not having access to high-speed internet, not having access to high-speed internet that you can afford, really critical, right? It really limits your opportunities in the modern era. So even though we see areas with really high uptake rates, we still think there's a lot of work to do. Next slide, please. This next slide shows the percentage of households with a computer. And frankly, this one surprises me every time I see it, even more than the first. Because we understand that there are areas that are very hard to service with high-speed internet, right? We understand that Missouri is very rocky areas, it's sometimes hard to expand physical broadband infrastructure in a certain area. But I think not having a computer is, in my opinion, I think, in opinion of a lot of people in this room, a computer is a vital piece of hardware for life. So the fact that we have areas where only 60%, 50% of people have a computer, again, is unacceptable. It really shows the scale of work that we have to do. And so this slide here shows those same data points we're just looking at, but it compares it against all census tracts within the state of Missouri. As you can see, every color point corresponds to a census tract within this region. And this one is And this slide here shows the percentage of eligible subscribers enrolled in the ACP. And I know I said this on the previous slide, but honestly, every time I see this slide, it really sends home the message, right? Because this is not just the percentage of people enrolled, it's the percentage of people that we know are eligible, right? We know out of the total number of eligible people in this area, only 10%, only 20%, at max, 50–60% of the eligible people are enrolled in the ACP. And the ACP is a really crucial benefit to helping low-income people, low-income communities, all of the entities, covered populations, gain access to the resources and skills necessary to really elevate themselves in the wider middle. Right? So there's a grand scale of work, there's a grand amount of work left to be done, right? We see that ACP is one of the most effective tools we have for really helping people overcome that affordability problem as it comes to connecting. Next slide. This is the same information. Thank you. Next. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, but I want to talk a little bit about the Digital Equity Act. So in 2021, the Digital Equity Act, in tandem with the BEAD Act, Broadband Equity Access, were passed in the infrastructure and investment. And the Digital Equity Act represents not only this country's greatest investment in digital equity, but it's honestly the first investment in this work to scale that can really accomplish things. And so the Digital Equity Act is composed of 3 separate programs. State elected planning grant program, state elected capacity grant program, the elected competitive grant program. As it relates to our office, I can say our office has applied for and received funding via the state elected planning grant program. And what is that funding? We are currently composing our statewide digital equity plan. And of course, that statewide digital equity plan will explain what the barriers our communities are facing as it relates to getting connected, as it relates to digital equity, as well as our office's priorities over the next 5 years. Someone wants to know, what is the state of Missouri doing? How are we going to conquer this problem? How are we going to get more people connected? How are we going to bridge the digital divide? They can look at our statewide digital equity plan and understand the exact steps we plan to take. Going forward, the next program I'd like to talk about is State Digital Equity Capacity Grant Program. And this program does exactly what the name suggests. This program is intended to help states, help organizations build their capacity in the digital inclusion space to really be effective in helping bridge the digital divide. And so we expect to submit our application for that in November of this year. That previously mentioned statewide digital equity plan will form a major component in that application. And again, we are currently in the process of writing that. The third program I want to talk about is that Digital Equity Competitive Grant Program. Unfortunately, we don't know as much about this program as we do the other two. NCI still hasn't yet to release the full detail. We expect, unlike the first two programs, which were exclusively open to states, federal territories, federally recognized Native American tribes, we expect the Digital Equity Competitive Grant Program to be open to nonprofits and other community services. One thing I also want to mention right now is that the Secretary of Public recently announced that they should be opening a comment period on programs, capacity grant program, competitive grant program. So if any of you represent organizations that be interested in applying to these programs, I would strongly encourage you to go forward, read the comment. It really will help. So it's the two. It will really help. And NCI shape this program to most effectively serve the population. Next slide, please.
No, it's the two of you I need to talk
I want to talk just a little bit about the work that we've done so far. I mentioned that we submitted an application to the planning grant, and we were successful in that. We were successfully received the funding that we requested that represents just over $800,000 in funding, which again we're using to conduct the outreach that you see right now, as well as members of our office recently went to Net Inclusion down in San Antonio, where they were able to discuss ways that we can better serve Missourians and really help understanding what other states are doing to accomplish their goals. As I mentioned, we are currently in the process of collecting data to inform our statewide digital equity plan. And I can also say that on behalf of the state and in collaboration with Community Action Missouri and the University of Missouri System, we submitted an application for the ACP Outreach Grant Program, and we expect a decision to be announced at some point. Slides. And so in support of us gathering data to really help construct our statewide digital equity plan, our office recently closed what we call our Digital Demonstrations Project grant program. And this program was intended to help our office gain a thorough understanding of the needs of the diverse populations and communities throughout Missouri. We understand that every community in the state is different, every community has different needs. Kansas City doesn't need the same thing, St. Louis doesn't need the same thing. We really want to make sure that we're tailoring our approach to meet the population. And so in support of that, we're funding these digital administration projects. So we received $250,000 from the planning grant. We expect to fund between 10 and 50 total projects. The type of work that we really want to fund are three main pillars. Right, that's first and foremost affordable internet access. We want to get more people connected to the internet at the price point they can afford. The second of those three pillars is computers and devices. Right, we want to make sure that people have access to the devices that they need, the devices that allow them to be truly full participant in the digital economy. And then finally, the final component, the final leg of digital inclusion is refers to digital literacy and skills, right? Making sure that individuals have the knowledge, have the skills necessary to interact with all the applications on the internet. And so in support of that, we really wanted to fund in support of promoting affordable internet access. We wanted to fund programs that go out, promote and enroll people in the FCC's affordable connectivity program. In support of devices, we wanted to fund programs that provide free and or subsidized devices, computers, tablets to communities that need them. And finally, in support of promoting digital literacy, we are willing to fund programs that train and deploy digital navigators. Digital navigators referring to those people who have the knowledge, who have the skills to fully interact with the internet, and are capable of going out into communities and making sure that everyone has those skills. While we are currently still, not quite yet, while we are still reviewing applications at this moment, I can say that we're very happy to report that of the application, all the applications we received, they covered all 6 of the Department of Economic Development regions that ensures we have full geographic coverage, as well as all the applications we received offered projects that would cover all of NTIA's covered populations, right? So our goal was originally to make sure that we had both demographic and geographic representation of the state. And with the applications we received thus far, I think we've accomplished. We are hoping to announce awards by April 3rd. Next slide. And then I just wanted to mention a bit more about net inclusion. As I mentioned, a few members of our team went down to net inclusion 2023 in San Antonio. This was from February 28th to March 2nd. This is, I know, I'm sure a number of you were there, I saw a few of you, but this is the largest gathering of digital inclusion practitioners, PI offices, and government broadband businesses that are really invested in digital equity work in the country. I think, if I'm not mistaken, someone was there correctly. I think they said last year there were about 300 or 400 people, and this year there were over 800. There we are, over 800. So this is the biggest one this far. Really showing the scale and the gravity of the work that we have to do, but also showing the commitment of practitioners who are really invested in making sure that we get this work done. And then again, I can say the Secretary of Commerce Raimondo was there, and she announced that this public comment period was Tuesday. Next slide. And our final slide here really just shows what we can currently forecast as our timeline for the next few years, over the next years. Again, we submitted our ACP outreach grant application in January. Our digital demonstration projects began accepting applications in February and closed March 1. We expect at some point today an ACP outreach grant decision. We expect to close our performance period for digital demonstration projects in August 2003. If all things go as we'd like them to, we hope to release our state digital equity plan, our statewide digital equity plan for public comment in October. That digital equity plan will be a very large component of our application for the grant funding, which hopefully we can submit in November. And again, this will hopefully unlock tens of millions of dollars. Really fun. Our offices continue investment in curriculum and real viable that that's my speaking portion. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Once, twice. All right. Rick.
Right, so the $25,000 in pilot grants. It really is, I don't think it's enough to demonstrate another on its own. So what we have is finding matching funds locally through nonprofits, through philanthropy to increase that funding.
Before I answer, let me make one thing clear for everyone. I think someone from federal government is all the meetings, this is not funded by us, definitely not funded. Outside of that, yes, I think from the feedback that we got during our public comment period, as well as just things we heard about, I agree, we think that $25,000 number could really not be sufficient. A number of applicants do have matching funds. I think hearing that from you and hearing that from the applicant is really good feedback. It's definitely something we'll consider looking for. Again, I think this was, if you want to think, we think of it as a very, very early down payment on the future of the
The other thing that state, I think, is aware of, we needs to engage further, is the experience of all the organizations in this room, the coalition has been around for many years. And there are a lot of programs that, I don't know, I think I saw it in 1,000, but that funding could be used to do an analysis of that 10 years of experience of other organizations. Because, like, I think everybody is past the idea that it is the funding to include. And that's what it is.
Thank you for that. I want to say, we definitely recognize the expertise of all the folks here. This is why we're here. We want to hear from you. I can't commit us right now to saying, yes, we'll invest in that study, but I do want to hear from all. My email, my phone number is always open to me. I am new to this space, and I acknowledge all of your years of experience. I really want to hear from all of you. Please help me shape this so that I can best serve Missouri. So we can best serve Missouri.
I think one of the things about the digital demonstration projects and the funding we made available is we received a number of applications, but I'll be honest, it was probably fewer than we had thought when you look at the total number of applications we received. But we're going to take that as a learning experience too. And so first things first, let's get these awards out, and those who are awarded, let them start utilizing those funds. But the next thing that we're going to do is spend some time studying why that was. I think there were several barriers to full participation in that short application window, short utilization window, and the reporting requirements. Yeah, I think there's probably others, and we hope to learn those over the next few months. But just know we're going to do both. We're going to get these funded, and then going to spend some time learning from our experience. Because I think we can learn from both and then implement that as we get ready to go forward for the full funding rounds. Just wanted to make that clear to everybody. I do think it's a good experience. We're going to learn from it, and we're going to learn from the actual activities we fund, but we're also going to learn from our experience doing it. Because truthfully, it's the first time we've done this as an office. To this point, we've been 100% about infrastructure and putting it where it is. And this is a totally different thing. So I think it's a good chance for us to learn both of them.
And the events and of you guys. This broadband effort is news all across the country. At the conference, they asked how many people had been there less than 5 years. And most of the entire room raised their hand. And we're all learning from each other. It's not competitive state to state, we're all learning from each other. So in support of the state of Missouri, we're all changing best practices. Doing well, we're not trying to create the wheel, but we are creating programs to help everyone across the entire country.
I'd just like to react to what you said, and I really appreciate you hearing this. Having had state experience, city experience, this room is full of that. As pointed out, experts who are delivering services committed to completing the gap for digital initiatives. Closing that gap might be very great. I'm elated that you showed on your map flat clay where Karen from Jackson County. Again, having worked in government my life, I'm advocating for these counties, this region. There are gaps in our county in our urban core that need to be full. The practitioners here are action-oriented folks. They need enabling funding. Part of the reason probably that they looked at that initial grant, 25,000, is just it's a small bucket of money. Most of these people, whether it's Goodwill or the city of Kansas City for that matter, need to have much more funding support to enable them to take action, close that gap. I'm always looking at it from especially a government, quasi-government person, that we need to have public-private partnership. The private sector has made a lot of money over these long-haul telecommunications in this whole digital initiative. Most of these folks are not in that sector. And so we depend on government to provide that kind of service. My question and my thought and my appeal is, it's about time here in Pembroke County. We need equity. When we know that there's funding going to other counties, we're not slamming them. We're glad that they got there. I know from working for the state, we have a county-oriented state government. Whenever there's a slice of pie, they get there. I'm here to stand up and say, we need ours. Jackson County, Platte County, Ray County, Cass County, and I believe they got a little bit. I want them to get more. As a black man, I'm unabashed by saying what I'm saying. We need to have the kind of money that can drive these initiatives to close that gap. I don't know if I've made anybody angry with what I said, but again, I'm saying it from my heart. I appreciate you being here from the state, our state representatives, our senators, our congressional leaders know the scenario. These practitioners are here hoping that equity is established. Thank you.
So one thing I just want to throw into that is one of our other goals with this will be our funding won't last forever. And I think it's worth sharing that is we have to, over the long haul of this, hopefully be able to fund the beginning of sustainable models that these things can happen. Fair or unfair, the B side of this that Adam knows more about is the infrastructure side, and it talks about billions of dollars. It truly does. The equity side talks about tens of millions of dollars. And although that will last for a while, it won't last forever. And so that's something else that we need to hear about it and think about as we go forward long-term with this, is our hope would be that we could be the seed money for sustainable model in the long-term work, knowing that bridging this digital equity thing isn't a 4-month plan. It's not a 1-year plan. It's a long-term plan to serve the communities. And so I want to also keep that in mind as we talk about this, knowing that, yes, you're right. When it comes to infrastructure, it's much easier for us to fund infrastructure into, rural Worth County, because it is black and white there. There either is service or there isn't service, and it's easy for us to judge that. It's much more difficult when you come to the heavily populated and urban areas. And so just keep that in mind. But when it comes to digital equity, we also want to keep in mind, we want to, is fund sustainable operations that can last after our budget is gone.
PJ, in regards to the gentleman's point, was on your very first slide, where did that data come from? That was covering. It's just started.
American Community Survey.
So what we found is those are grossly optimistic, and specifically within the urban report. Not Google, love Google, I have Google in my house, but Google is careful. And they feel like they're advertising that they're expanding the market. They've not fully built out in the market. And I appreciate you being here and all that, but at the end of the day, there are still pockets. And so the perception is that the urban core and the suburban core is covered already. And what we found out in working with like All Missourian Center, that is not the case. And so we're going up a map that says, hey, we got 100% covered. Well, and then people go, oh, well, that sounds great. We should go into rural America and go, and that's more black and white. That is definitely, I mean, we're working with rural electric cooperatives. Their question was, do we want to count household or do we want to, I said, I want to count every meter. Because if they put a meter at a grain elevator or a grain bin, then they probably need internet there as well. So that's kind of more black and white. But here in the urban core, even though it's running down that main down Truth, I got tons of fiber running right down through the prospect. That doesn't mean the people are covered, block off of Truth.
Right.
That's the other thing.
And so, you know, show this map of broadband subscription, that gets into the question of, and in the urban core, in the, there are lots of areas with low subscription rates. There's sort of, it becomes a sort of double, where you have suburban areas with lots of access and high subscription rates. And you have rural areas where the infrastructure is not there. You have urban areas where some kind of infrastructure and the cost of service becomes a challenge. So, you know, we're trying to, we understand that. We'll be looking at other.
But I'm still like that, I'm not still up there specifically saying, hey, there's a lot of coverage and it's not really that way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I have a question that's related to this, so okay, just go ahead, how many people in here have written on these studies or a questionnaire that was sent out to many people? It doesn't depend, like whatever, I mean, has anyone here personally written questionnaires to give your customers or is it? Or
I've done surveys.
how many people in here have graduated from sociology or anthropology? My point is, I'm coming on to your being homeless. I was in the Station Hill, and at the time, we talked about being confident for lots of persons. What's your name? I'm both your age and your so you don't have to tell. My point here is, you're not. Except by you, probably. Yeah. Because I mean, like, you get substantive, and it's, I know it has to be written to both on the economic or environment, or, you know. Yeah, yeah.
It's also somewhat.
I mean, probably
To be accessible.
Yes, I think frequently we go out and we hear exactly what you're saying, right? So often, a lot of the data, a lot of the maps we use are flawed, and we notice. And it's the best that we have to work with right now. But I want to say that we are not solely relying on this, right? The reason we are standing here in front of these days, because we know that they're flawed. And that listening to people who live in these areas, so they're listening to and hearing what their needs are directly is the best way we can serve. I think talking about digital equity practitioners, you probably know this. Historically, communities have been talked about, but not talked about, right? When they try to serve them, outsiders talk about their needs, and people try to match that. But we are here in front of people, we are here, we go throughout the state, we went into 23 different sites, so that we can hear directly from them. And we're going to, again, going back out in a few months again to hear from them. Because we know that these are flawed, but the people who live experiences these are, I think if we can give us the best data, the best response, they can help us tune in the best service. Not all the case. But thank you. Sorry.
And I have a question. So when you get the funding and grant, is there going to be a limit to say, well, hey, for the guys that I teach women technology, who are marginalized and come from Delaware prison, and a lot of times they are in the city that open every course, they don't have internet or they don't have a laptop to have for someone for device as well. So we have community resources, but whenever you call them, you can't get any laptop. You know, or I have to bring them to the, thank you for the Kansas City Public Library that hosts us to be able to use their internet and laptop, but when they're at home, they don't have any resources to use them. So how do we know who gets the money, so we go to those agencies and ask for help for the participants?
I'm very glad you asked that question. I'm try, I think I have two answers. And so, will there be announcements, like when the state is granting funding to people? BJ, please correct me if I'm wrong. We would like to tell people that we're doing.
Oh, well, 100%.
Okay, I think a lot of people think government doesn't do. Anything we can do to remedy that, you know, would be a great thing. And then two, I mentioned that statewide digital equity plan earlier. One of the requirements, one of the federal requirements, in order for us to receive the funding, we have to create that. We have to create an asset information book. And this is something that's publicly available so that people can know where to gain access to the resources. And we're currently in the process of producing that. And again, that would be a publicly available tool, right? So if someone wants to know, hey, I don't know how to use Excel, or I really want to go for this job, but I don't have the capacity right now. How can I go get a digital skills course to teach me how to do that? You can go to this asset map and see where these resources are. And again, this is something that you have to do. So it's cool.
If you work with familiar with Missouri Broadband Resource Rail and has, I guess, the beginning of that tool where agencies can post their services. I don't think that yet, but is that what they're going on? Missouri Broadband Resource.
We're doing this in collaboration with you is what their historical sources are.
Yeah, it's a lot of these groups are on that resource right now.
Yeah, I was gonna add, yes, the Missouri Broadband Resource Rail, which is mobroadband.org, is set up to collect that information. But I want to get back to the point about if the money is going to flow to where it's really needed, we need what I've heard people refer to as the ground truth. We were talking about. And the good news is there's a whole bunch of organizations here who are on the ground in communities, and others who aren't in the room maybe right now, who a lot of us are trying to get them to pool the information they're collecting from residents on town, local businesses. Then if we can put that together, make it publicly available, I think we can do a lot better making sure that the money is flowing to where it's intended. Right. So I wanted to get some optimism into here. We've also
That's rare.
really good data over the years, so let's fix it.
Yeah, I would also like to add on top of what's already at the resource rail, another component that we're working with the Office of Broadband on is a tool that helps gather resources that are currently available. So you'll see that come out as well to be part of the resource rail as well. So they'll be on top of what's already there. That will help you gather not only we can see what's happening currently, what may be on tap, so that we start to see that on a broader scale, not only so we can share information with anyone that heard that throughout the group. And I think that's a good tool for us to build upon to see what's happening across the state and share the successes and issues that come forward with trying to implement these different programs.
Yes. Really excited. There are so many stops in the fall. And usually the digital equity section is pretty quiet. That's that. I will. There we go. Please.
I have a question about the source of the funds. The funding that we're looking at right now that's being distributed in these tranches over the next 2 years. This is funding presumably like the allocation of the original ARPA funds that flowed to the state. Is the IIJA funding going to create another pool that replicates this resource?
So, do my best. ARPA was mostly done before I got started. But none so far, I think we spoke about today are all IIJA related. All the programming today has been funded via IIJA. I don't know of any ARPA funds that are specifically delegated for digital equity.
They were not appropriated through the appropriations process. They were originally in suggestion with our appropriate through the ARPA funds. There will be state ARPA funds that don't get spent. You know, we had ARPA, it all got appropriated. There'll be projects that either don't happen or there will be some sort of a hearing at some point relatively soon, because we only have until the end of 2024 to have those allocated and the end of 2026 to have those spent. At this point, I don't know the plan for what happens with those unspent funds. Nobody's asked me what I should do, what I would do with them if they were given to us, and nobody's told me what will be done with them. Because to be quite honest with you, we had some pole replacement funds that didn't get spent. We had about 3.8 million in pole replacement funds that didn't get spent because of the way they were being utilized. They just weren't, we did not have projects asking for those that were approved. So I don't know what happened. There may be, my guess is that, like I said, nobody's asked or told me, but I would guess that in the next year, we will be asked, okay, here's what that pot looks like, and there will be, or there may be other plans outside of broadband for those. Because the governor's office and the budget and the legislatures look at the large scale of what all's being done. And I'll be honest, when you look at broadband and you see, hey, the Office of Broadband thinks they're potentially going to get $1 billion for infrastructure and $25 million for digital equity, we may not have much of an argument to ask for a few more million from ARPA funds. So that would be my guess when it comes to those conversations. So we two sides to that. Do I have ideas? Yes. Do I think I'll get all that funding? I don't. But I do think this has been a great conversation. We normally kind of run through these questions, but I think we've covered a lot of this. The one that I'm not sure that we've covered is there's a lot of work that goes on in Kansas City. We know that. If we could replicate Kansas City all across the state of Missouri, we would. You know, you guys have been really rich in this type of effort for a long time. But even in an area like this, what additional things need to happen to kind of, you know, go to the next level? I think that's the one question that's remained on this list that I really think, because we've got a good idea when we listen to who does what's throughout the group, we got a lot of great work being done. But what needs to be being done that we need to know about as we get ready for this next effort?
So I'm new to this group, so I think I heard that in the first question.
Yeah.
Of increased funding.
Yeah.
Because it seems like all the practitioners here have plans, have ideas, and need to execute on those and need to see those realized. But it's not at $20,000 chunks.
Yeah.
And so the additional services and support is to look at this environment and see that it is not a place where that level of program development is occurring. Rather, I mean, understanding the exact environment and then providing, you know, a collective understanding for this custom geography. And so I'm still listening for that too, because I'm up in Parkville, right on the edge of the suburban and rural. And so I'm really interested in adopting some of these practices in a language that fits and in the environment that fits out there, which I kind of hear you doing too. And so kudos to Kansas City, like big time. I heard that all around, and this isn't just a pat on back thing. This is how do we get to the next step? And you know, I think there's as many heads in here and hearts, there's ideas. And so I'm going to take a lot of time to learn that. And I hope to see you around learning that from this group as well.
Leslie.
I'm Leslie Scott. I'm the program manager for digital inclusion at KC Digital Drive. I don't think I introduced myself initially. We have a lot of big corporations in the Kansas City region, and I don't think that very many of them are taking their decommissioned devices to PCs for people to be refurbished and distributed out to our low income community. I didn't hear anybody from the chamber here. I think that it would be great to have our business community more involved and, you know, just to be able to leverage the resources that are already there. In addition to increasing our funding, how do we wrangle those existing resources without having to spend more money and getting those resources where they need to be. And, you know, we hear all the time from the Casey Tech Council about all these jobs that are open that they can't fill. But we need those corporations to come to the table to be supporting people to learn those digital skills, even if they're starting with an email, right? And moving them along that digital skills continuum. So having our business community engaged in this work more meaningfully and strategically, I think would really be beneficial.
So in support of what Buzz is saying, but a little step past that is, there's three legs here, is that, and you've got the infrastructure, and there's plenty of that going on. I think there's, at least trying to get some stuff done. The education, I think that's very localized, so it almost has to be community-based in some direction there.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is back to the hardware. And who are the biggest employers? School districts, federal government, state government. Where are those devices going? Because those devices need to be repurposed, not recycled or thrown in the trash. And corporations, great, private enterprise, but that means you're going and talking to a lot of different people versus if you're going to at the state education level, they say, hey, all those one-to-one devices that got paid for, and hey, we're gonna reset, we're gonna update those. Where are all those devices going that used to be in students' hands? That now if you go to maybe the LMI population that aren't in school, or parents or elderly. So that's where I think some direction needs to be done at the broadband office. We're talking to those higher level big employers. And most of the bigger employers are gonna be hospitals, school districts, state and federal in a region.
Another comment, one of the things to your point, sir, that is needed is an integrated plan, a business plan, if you will, that allows these stakeholders to ensure that their practices and their actions have not only holistic wraparound services, but pinpoint strategically, like you suggested in your point, crafted to ensure that these count. We know that rural counties are, and I have no problem with that said, work with rural representatives. And we know that they need to be actually taken care of. But there is a strong gap in Platte, Clay, Jackson that needs to be filled like right now, whether it's ARPA funding or a combination of funding. You don't get caught up in the acronyms of these federal allocations. They're all federal dollars. At the end of the day, we need them in Jackson County. There are Hispanic, white, and black people living in these neighborhoods that don't have access. Don't even know about the process. We don't need to continue to go around the horn and do research to find out. Documents, evidence like this gentleman is saying shows. My own testimony is still news, and as Ms. Jones is saying, national is still news. Some of these practitioners, there's a lady sitting over there next to Mr. Lupino, that's been teaching kids in school for over 10 years how to deal with computers and deal with being into the digital initiative. She needs that money right now. Again, most of these practitioners need infusion now. We know, in my practice, public-private support is needed now. It's great to have Google here, AT&T, and all of those ISPs need to be held accountable to work with a family, essential families over there who are actually doing the work. And again, as an advocate, I'm here pleading, Mr. Usher, for Jackson County. Well, I'm saying,
One of them better. Sorry.
Yeah, Doug Davies, here, Health Center. To your question, and I think also to the gentleman here, I think the things that would make our organization feel confident about the initiative
and this is my first presentation, so this question is maybe in another presentation I did. But what I get to here clearly defined is how the program is defining equities across the state. Secondly, how the state plans to measure impact based on that definition. And then thirdly, how the state plans to report back what actually happened. Where are we seeing the needle move? If we're planning equity advances in Branson and Springfield and Sedalia, what are we moving the needle in those working in those particular communities as it relates to digital equity? So that may be thoroughly answered in another PowerPoint, but
Yeah,
momentum and, you know, is critical.
Yeah.
The first time, especially since it's new. Otherwise, you'll have people say, this is just another federally funded program, we missed the mark.
Yes. I think those are great, and I do think those are the kinds of things we want to flesh out through this conversation. And I don't think it's perfect, but what we're doing here, because we got $800,000 to do this planning effort, and we are still in the planning phases of this effort, to then go into the implementation phase in 2024. And at that, when we submit our plan, that's when we'll say, this is how these are the goals we want to reach, and this is how we'll measure it. With the digital demonstration, for example, the goal was, let's get more devices in people's hands. Let's get more trainers on the ground, and let's get more people that are eligible signed up for ACP. And knowing that, not that that's the baseline, but those are some things that are pretty easy to measure. And that doesn't mean it's the only things we do going forward with the full funding. But those being like, let's increase it, and then, but then also kind of what we were showing you was a glimpse of what we think is easily measurable, which is broadband subscription rates in all areas of the state, kind of by block, you know, by census block is what that was. And knowing it's not perfect measurements, but some of these things are difficult to measure.
Sure.
I think also you'd love to go beyond that, people that are employed in digital skills, and things like that. But yeah, we don't have it all yet. I mean that. That's why we're here doing these listening tours, because we very much don't have all the answers. JR, is anything I'm missing? Then we'll go to Tony again.
No. Saying exactly what I wanted to show. We might not have the time for it today, but during the presentation, we almost always go to this slide. So I would say a little bit more specific to how do we define equity, how do we define success, how do we do that? I don't think it's up to us to do that, right? People in the community still aren't connected. Just because we say, hey, we've done it, doesn't mean it's been accomplished. We're coming to ask, what does success look like to you? And then we can formulate our goals and what we're at.
Yeah. Tony, let's.
Yeah, just one suggestion is as you're reviewing some of the digital demonstration grants or other programs, I think there's a lot of strength in inclusive and diverse teams. So you might start saying, we're going to put a premium on applications that show that we've got collaborators working together, covering bases, and it's a really well, it's consistent with Mike's statement about an integrated plan, but I think sometimes grants create undue competition where there should be collaboration. So if you just bake it into it, no, it's a collaboration grant. It's a good point.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, George Walker with Black Family Technology Association. And I've been to a couple of these meetings. I was out in Liberty at one. And my thing is that we need to make sure that we have a marketing program that helps us reach some of the people that aren't connected. We're a small organization. We work with parents and kids on robotics and things like that. But we still have parents that come in with their kids. And we're asking, well, you work on this at home, well, I don't have internet access. I don't have that. And we're hearing that from the students that come to us. And it's like, okay, we need to be able to grab those parents somehow, and not us. But if there was a trainer or someplace that we could get them get them to see the value in it, because they need to be educated. I heard you talk about the education, because they're wanting to do for their kids. They're bringing them to our program. They're wanting to learn and stuff that they don't ask us about, getting hooked up at their house. And you find out they don't have that. They don't have this equipment. And we're not saying going to be the group that provides all the equipment stuff, but we need to have a good way of referring people and getting some training maybe to the boots on the ground groups as to this is how you can talk to those people and get them to come to this meeting, or get in this organization. So they start seeing the need, because it still has to be what they see the need for. We've been working about 20 years, and we started out with awareness. That's part of our name, is getting people aware of the need for it. Because if they don't have that feeling that they need it, then it's not a big priority. And we're running into parents that aren't thinking that it's that big a priority, either funding or just don't know. And that's something that we have to market, we have to build up that connectivity point, because a lot of people think everybody knows they have it or should have it, but they got a cell phone and they think that's good enough. Yeah. I can get my email, I can text and stuff, but then we say, well, can this kid work on this robotics program when he gets home? We want him to do some virtual stuff, but we only see him 1 day or 2 days a week. And the kids tell us, he ain't got nothing at home. Go ahead.
Excuse me, sorry. I kind of slept quiet. We've only got 30 minutes. Let's
Let's let this guy talk real quick, and then I want to go to that next slide, and I want to spend some time on that. It doesn't matter if we don't get through it all.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to talk briefly. Bill Dinkler, African Internet, so I'm here representing an ISP. And everyone in this room, I've been to about 15 of these meetings all across the state. This room is the most individuals that I've seen in equity and inclusion combined. In here is more than all of the other meetings I've been to. It is definitely a very important thing. You guys have all kind of alluded to it and talked about it. The way you guys are going to get these grants, get these monies is private. You guys have to come to us ISPs and say, hey, we want to do these programs. We want to those robotics individuals. We need to know we have the ACP. We have programs out there that are capable. We need you guys coming to us saying, hey, we've got this program that we're working on. Can you help us with this? Because we want to, at least aptitude we do. I'm sure Google, all of them. We want these inclusions. We want these customers more or less to come to us and say, hey, we don't have internet. We have an individual that can't afford it. Okay, let's get them hooked up on the ACP. Let's get them internet and let's figure it out. And that's how you guys are going to see these fundings. Is go to these, make these public-private partnerships with with your ISPs that can be long-lasting, recurring events. We've got every month, the ISP is help supporting us to do a public library initiative where we go in and we do tech training for senior citizens and those sort of things and broaden. I know you guys are very focused on your counties and those things, but if you look to broaden your view of that, maybe it doesn't need to be. Maybe you guys can create a program that's going to cover the whole state with a charter or AT&T or with one of those that is where that funding is really going to become, useful and powerful to get people included in those. And I think that we really need to focus on those public-private partnerships to be really going after these grants and getting the money, especially in this rural or in this urban area, because the rural areas, they do not have individuals thinking about this, worrying about how to get people included. I come from a rural area. That's what we do is rural internet. And I can tell you that there are very few individuals in those areas thinking and worrying about that. It is the individuals in this room. And I would strongly advise that you guys look to expand your programs, not just within the urban area, but also into the rural area. That's going to greatly increase your chances of being able to obtain some of this funding.
I just wanted to say what literally keeps me up at night is having the workforce to make sure that we have the infrastructure roll out as we are planning. And so as it relates to partnerships, we've got workforce here. I would love to talk offline about working with the ISPs and connecting our workforce organizations in the KC region to get people trained up for these very well-paying, family supporting jobs. And, we've got to be thinking about that now because we've got to get all that planning in place so that we can get people trained and hit the ground running when it's time. So see me after the meeting, please.
So real quick, BJ, in relationship to what he just said is, hey, do it the other way. The ISP should actually be pushing it out. It's more centralized. And actually it could be a policy based on from the state level, even the federal level, that hey, we're gonna money. You should be pushing out their best practices and then we're judging that. Because at the end of the day, for, not the best analogy, but a drug dealer. They give you the free drugs first. Okay? But then they get you, hooked. Okay?
That's not always going away.
Let's let the gentleman in the back speak, and then I want to go to that. What's success look like, and how do we measure it? Go ahead.
No, that's in Northern Virginia, this is training, sees there's nothing but training, they want to go to that. I mean, you look at PSAs, big reason, whatever. But grandma knows that she can now watch that video on their scale. We're getting something out of it.
Yeah. Okay, I know we can talk for days. I really want to, and this gets to the comment earlier. What should we be measuring to know that we've advanced? And then what does success look like? A lot of times these are two different questions, but I think for the sake of time, we need to combine them into one. But truthfully, we're trying to develop, what does our plan look like? We have, or will have funds available, but we don't just want to throw it out there. What is the end goal of this? How do we measure that? And then long-term, and before we all get out of here, what does success look like to the people in this room?
Well, and one of the things I know we're talking a lot about connectivity, which that is first and foremost. If you don't have internet, nothing else but the internet really matters to you. But want to put in there that one of the measures of success, I think, that needs long-term in this plan, especially this probably gets more into the feed side of it, and connectivity is after the homes are connected, you look at speeds, but then you have to really start talking about latency. Because you're gonna have a lot of these rural areas, it's not gonna impact the Kansas City Metro, but a lot of these rural areas where you can have gigabit internet speed, but if your latency is so bad, you still can't stream anything. And so using that as a measure, I think, and talking to a lot of states, some are talking about that and some are going, well, why does latency matter if they have gigabit internet or if they have 100 down? And so I just think that's a really important part of the conversation to measure success is kind of including that in there.
Thank you. And on top of measuring just the connectivity, are the people that now are connected using healthcare services, are able to go to college or go to school or go to church as a result of having that connected initiative.
Yeah.
Again, whether it's elderly or just poor people, are they now able to make a quality life change? That's what this should be all about at the end.
Yeah.
Not just being able to get on the telephone and see a basketball game or play a game.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. We're a part of the Department of Economic Development. And I like to say, we're not here so you can take part in Netflix and watch Yellowstone. That's not what we're really here for. It's really about the higher level uses, like you were talking about, healthcare, and I couldn't agree more. Thank you for that. The next,
Go ahead.
oh, sorry, go.
But long-term utilization, you raise the issue of these funds are not gonna be here. We got that. We've done that.
Yeah.
But what we've been sharing this morning is we have called past practice describing the current because of expectations. Because as it's trickled down to this level, it hasn't been a perfect. There was a lot of confusion among this group, and a lot of having to say, here it comes again. Another piece of paper drive us and what's going to happen next. focus on what has happened when you where we are now, we still back of our mind as the global like this, we decided, is this really worth it? At the same time, we have a new mandate that says that it's here now, take advantage of it because it's going to go away. And our strategy has to be having a sound business plan that takes us incrementally to the promised land. Because all of these dollars are gonna come from different directions at different intersections with all of our business sites. And as they come online, these things, we don't want to continue to go through this. We, from this point of view, want to streamline to how we interject all of the great talent we have in this room. For expectation is you're delivering a service, you're bringing on employees. You asked about the private and private sector in terms of they should be, they will be because you will have to cap audience of the potential employees. And only by being a strong unit can you survive, because 5 years somebody else will do that job. Not because you're incompetent, because you moved on to greater things. And so therefore, all I'm saying is that all the things that I'm saying, all things that it's this, we need a total seismic turn.
So-
Change of direction.
So with that in mind, because I totally, to, one of the things I pointed out was sustainable models, and you're exactly right. From our, like, helping, how does that look? Is it regional? Is it in line with regional planning commissions? Is it county? Like, because we can't make a model for the whole state. It is not one size fits all. It, you know, short of telling a statewide provider they have to do these things, which we're not usually in the business of doing, like, how does that look? Is there a Kansas City model and a St. Louis model?
There will be a Kansas City model.
Yeah, I'm explore that with me.
Sharing with you.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the key. It will be a specific because we have power. Every one of the stakeholders here has something to add to that. Well, the only way we're able to compete with this limited dollar at the track new business partners. Because remember, the competition as driving is a small group of select people who made right over again. Now we have the public private companies say, well, we demand this. You can't be holistic, you have to monetize it. Because when we holistically talk about these things, they'll go far. Yeah. They'll go far. Because that small group is thriving and dynamic. They held this marketplace for a long time. We have to involve ourselves in being the provider of training for quality, so that it's training itself.
BJ, let's get back here real quick. Go ahead.
I would, just to add to what Mike Hughes was saying earlier, that you know, the outcomes, the success, it's got to be measured, like Al was saying as well, like beyond just how many people are connected and have a computer at home. It's got to really be economic mobility for residents, households. So, and that is so all inclusive of all parts of our economy. I know you're from the Department of Economic Development, and this is a real opportunity for the department to get down to that level of the resident, the neighborhood, and the households. And, you know, success looks like our health department measures social determinants of health in mix of what we call life zip codes. And you're probably familiar with this, like zip codes where life expectancy is sometimes 8 to 15 years lower than an immediately adjacent zip code. We have that situation here in Kansas City, and those are the really life-changing benefits of implementing this program. So the other thing I would add is that we talked about, the experience and programs in this room, but the thing that we really haven't done as a coalition is establish shared goals and outcomes, shared performance measures, and basically a shared database to show what our collective impact has been as a region. So I feel like we're at that point in the work that we've done where we understand, how to get devices to people, how to get people signed up to ACP. I know you'll see some in the room, but we still have, connections to be made, but we've got organizations providing ACP effectively, providing devices, getting devices donated by, at least when I was at the city, Kansas City, Missouri, donating all the city's electronics to ACP people. That's a job creator, that's a partnership for employment council, it's a workforce development, multifaceted in what it's doing. And I think this group, and we're working on it. Tony, if you know, like the university has a digital equity working group, we've got a digital equity activist group that's building some toolkits around this. So, support or input on that work.
One last one, and then we gotta give Adam some time.
I should piggyback on what Rick said, and I'm with the Health Forward Foundation,
Yes.
and on Wednesday, I was at the Community Health Worker Association Conference in Missouri in Columbia. I feel like you all need to call the Community Health Worker Association of Missouri. They have the most outstanding, most diverse, rural, urban, St. Louis, Kansas City, Black, white, Hispanic, you name it, population of folks that have had 2 or 3 generations, people in their families that are out in the community with the residents, building things with the people that are most affected. So I feel like this organization, your next meeting should be held with that group, because community health workers are essential. They're the ones that are meeting with the residents. They're in the community. And these peer counselors that are part of the community health worker network are also the ones that need to be sitting in these rooms to give you. They're the messengers, they're the promoters of health. And this is a big part of health promotion and the social determinants of health. Thank you.
Just really quickly, Don, can you just say what we're doing very quickly, like?
Currently funded by All Forward Foundation. We've done a project through Casey Digital Drive to do digital inclusion for community health workers. Because they're drawn from the communities that they serve, they also experience the divide just like their own communities do. So we created a resource for community health workers to get across the divide, so to speak, and also be able to penetrate with their clients. And we've carried that forward into another Health Forward Foundation project, in which we'll be training community health workers literally to go into people's homes to get them connected. So this work is ongoing, and very much thanks to the Health Forward Foundation.
All right, I really appreciate this. I know we could go for another 2 hours on just that, but I do want to give Adam some time. We talked about knowing where service is and where it's not. We're midstream on this, and I don't want to take too much of the time. I want to let Adam cover some of the things that we're looking at as we consider. Adam's really our infrastructure focus for this effort, and let him share some thoughts. And he has some interesting maps that he wants to share with you. The other thing I want to really point out when it comes to this is we have the ability to still weigh in on these. These are not set in stone. We still can use your input. So I'm sure he's going to share that as well. Now I'll turn it over to Adam. And it looked like he was ready, so I did.
No, absolutely, yes. So, I want to move kind of relatively quickly through this. So B is the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program. It prioritizes unserved and underserved locations as the first. The state of Missouri will learn exactly how much we get in the next couple of months, but it could be north of $1 billion to serve lots of locations across the state of Missouri that do not currently have service. The You can look at this map here is an attempt to kind of combine a couple of different streams of data. So where is so the Federal Communication Commission collects data about individual addresses, whether any provider reports providing service. And then lots of agencies have already funded projects. Those are the sort of light green dots on the screen there. And then green dot, the darker green dots are supposed to be served locations. Red and yellow are supposed to be unserved, underserved. But there's a couple things I wanted to kind of expand on this point. So there are areas in Jackson County here in the region that are marked on these maps as unserved. But that's not the end of the story. There's going to be a challenge process that the state will be able to conduct to try to identify locations that are incorrectly marked as served on these maps. So if there are areas in the urban core, anywhere in the state, where providers are indicating that service is there, and it isn't actually there, there will be a period when we can change these dots from green to red and potentially open up areas for funding. So I want to preview this because we will be asking people with the ability to get it ground truth to help us challenge these maps, get these maps looking right, so that no part of the state misses out on this opportunity for funding to get service to additional people. The other point that I wanted to hit is this question of multi-dwelling units. So the language of the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment NOPO, it says generally, before you spend any of the BEAD money on digital equity, on trying to get prices down, and any of these other things, you've got to make sure that every unserved location has service. And so my question for them is, that I asked just a couple weeks ago, does unserved include unserved apartments within a served apartment building? And their response initially was, that's a good question. That's a big one. But then they said yes. So getting service to buildings with unserved units within served buildings can be part of that top priority funding. So what we need to know, how do we identify these buildings? How do we set up, we know a lot about how to build a project that gets fiber to a home that doesn't have it already. We need to know what projects to work on internal wiring within buildings. We want to know what those would look like. And if anybody in this room has thoughts about that, I'd love to get in touch with you so we can talk that through. The other question would be identifying these buildings. So the FCC doesn't collect this data. An apartment building that has service to the curb will appear as served on these maps. So we would need to figure out how we can find these buildings so that we can do these projects. So I want to say, our office is aware that the way that this funding has got to be put up. Because there are a lot of unserved locations in rural parts of the state that we're going to we're going to try to get service to. But we want to make sure that for whatever reason people don't have access to the internet, we want to get them online. And potentially looking at these multi-dwelling units is an opportunity to get affordable internet service to people who currently don't have it in some of these urban areas. So we need to know what this project looks like. This was obviously meant to be more of a kind of discussion period, and I don't know how much time we have left. I will also it took a little while to load here, but if we wanted to look at everything's taking a little while. But if we, I don't know, how much time do we have? Is it 0?
So, can I interrupt this minute, Adam? And say, we've got, we're just about at noon. So, Wendy's still here?
Yeah.
Is there anything happening in this room immediately after, if people want to stick around? Okay, so we're going to bring an official close to the meeting, but then we're gonna let people stick around. And even if you guys want to stick around, BJ said that the team is still here. It doesn't sound like they've got, when they were doing these last falls, they had 3 meetings in a day sometime in 3 different parts of the state, so we need to finish up and go. That is not the case. The state team is welcome to stay here. As a reminder, for our April meeting, we will be back on Zoom. Our agenda, just to give you a little teaser, and we'll get some out on this soon. We're gonna have 6 or 7 speakers. It's gonna be a little bit different. We're gonna have kind of focus on Miami County and Southern Johnson County in Kansas. So the steering committee, I think we've shared this, wanted to get a little bit more regional representation. So we're pretty kind of urban core focused today, but we'll have Janet McCray from Miami County, Mayor Joe Berkey from Spring Hill, both of who have been working for a long time on getting infrastructure into Kansas. There were a bunch of capital project funds that went out. Kansas was actually one of the first states to deploy those funds for broadband. So we'll have QuickCom, WANRAC, Comcast, and MoCan Dial on the provider side. And then we'll have some representation from the state broadband office, and it will be sort of a mixed presentation and panels. The idea being, I think there's lessons there, not just for the Kansas process, but more broadly, that it's a little more infrastructure focused, whereas this has been digital equity focused. So that is our April. It's going to be the second Friday in April. The first Friday is Good Friday, so we're pushing back April 14th on Zoom, 10:30 to noon. You will get information about that. And so if you've got to run someplace, please don't be embarrassed to get up and move on to your next event. But if you'd like to stay here, and Adam, you're certainly welcome to kind of keep going from a presentation standpoint. We'll leave it to you guys how much you want to kind of continue guiding a session, maybe with people one-on-one. Eric's got something.
All right, just for folks who will be leaving, I would like to, I'm gonna stand here with my card. I'm happy to talk with anyone who has more information they want to do. Or just in general, speak, even though it can be aware of people opportunities from stay good.
Sorry about that.
Are you guys? Louisa put me in charge. She's in meetings.
I don't know if you noticed it, she was getting anxiety. She was like twitching and like her legs were going like this, like 1,000 miles an hour, and I'm just like, I gotta get up. She's triggering my anxiety right now. No, that's fine. The battery was running low. I didn't know if you wanted to leave it somewhere or anything. But I didn't want to like die during the meeting, but I think people are leaving, so. Yeah. We're